YouTube Bazico in the Goat House is back. Going over my best team fits for the top trade candidates that could be dealt at the trade deadline, which is just after this weekend. So expected some action to happen here. So really excited about that. We have a bunch of trade deadline videos on the channel and more to come. We'll even have grades if there's a decent amount of trades here early next week. We have weekly coverage, weekly picks, score predictions, bets, power rankings, and a lot more. Join us, like, subscribe to notifications on, follow us on Twitter. The latest news, rumors, breaking news on there on our Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for that. Anything else you're looking for, including our sponsors, Liquid IV, code GOAT, GLD Shop, code GOAT. I have the Titans chain on from the GLD Shop. They have more NFL jewelry like this. We have a giveaway going on with them. Links pinned in the comments for any of that. So best team fits for the best trade candidates. So starting with Chase Young, I like the Falcons a lot for them. What goes into team fit, scheme fit, need, financial fit, is it realistic, all those things. So the Falcons make the most sense. I could see them staying quiet at the trade deadline just because they probably view themselves as a future team. They don't want to give up a lot of future, but they're not that early in the rebuild process. It's a very good football team. They might just be a pass rusher and a quarterback away. So having an opportunity to go get a young pass rusher and a good one makes a lot of sense here. And they have, the cap, the future cap to not only trade for Chase Young, but to extend him as well, which somebody that is going to trade for Chase Young, you better be able to extend him. So the Falcons, they make the most sense, in terms of the fit and for multiple reasons for Chase Young. We'll see if he actually gets dealt and who he actually gets traded to, but also like the Jags. The Jags should be pretty scheme versatile when it comes to the type of pass rushers they get, that they're after. They spent a lot of money very recently in free agency, not this past one, but the one before. But they actually have an opening, in terms of cap space in the future. They can make Chase Young work. So that would be my next favorite fit. There's other teams that could trade for him. Not saying one of these two teams are the only two teams that could trade for him, but just in terms of my favorite fits for Chase Young here. And then talk about the other Commanders pass rusher. I do like the Jags for Montez Sweat. They're looking for a pass rusher, so we know it's kind of a need, so it's a fit in that category. They really have a type when it comes to the edge rushers. Very long, mainly the very long, but athletic as well, and that is Montez Sweat. They want guys that they want to be able to work with those traits and get the most out of him. Sweat he's 27 years old, but he was a raw prospect. He was a guy that was really going to get going on his his first contract after his rookie contract. So he still has upside. So that kind of just fits like the prototype and the guys they want to work with, fits what the Jags are looking for. And they don't have the most cap space in the future because they've spent a lot, and they have to extend Ridley, they have to extend Josh Allen, but they have a little bit to work with, but maybe they don't want the most expensive pass rusher like the Chase Young where they have to give a crazy amount of money to, where Montez Sweat, they have to spend a little bit of money and they have to extend him, but it's not going to be Josh Allen money, so therefore they can, extend multiple guys, Sweat, Josh Allen, Ridley, and make it work. I do like the Raiders for Sweat as well. I think it'll really fit their scheme, opposite of Max Crosby. I think a really good fit scheme-wise. And it sounds like they could be buyers and sellers at the deadline, so they'll sell Renfro. Do they buy a pass rusher? Do they go for a Montez Sweat, or do they go a little smaller and go for like a Carl Lawson? But I do like the Raiders a lot for him as well, and they have a lot of future caps, so really like those fits in terms of scheme mainly, but and then the type of pass rusher they look for, but can they make it work? I love the scheme fit with Chicago as well, but the Bears, I think, want to keep their draft picks. If they're going to go for a guy, maybe Chase Young, but I think more teams are more likely to spend a lot in terms of compensation. But I do like scheme fit. I do like Sweat for the Bears, but I think these teams are a little more likely for multiple more reasons that we explained. But really like the Jags and the Raiders for Montez Sweat. I like the Falcons as well. We talk about the Falcons with Chase Young. I like the Chiefs for Montez Sweat. A lot of teams for Sweat here. But those are the two that stand out. Next, Brian Burns, like the Rams. Brian Burns is less likely to be dealt than we talked about Chase Young. We talked about Montez Sweat. I think Montez Sweat, so far through this video, Burns, Sweat, Young. Montez Sweat most likely to be dealt, then probably Chase Young. Unless Montez Sweat gets dealt, then Chase Young's not going to get dealt, for sure. And then Burns, it's sounding like the Panthers don't want to deal him, and it is a very tricky situation because they were offered a ton before, like multiple firsts, and they turned it down because they wanted to extend him. They did not extend him yet. And he's a little underwhelming this year, but I still think very highly of Brian Burns, really good player. So his trade value has gone down. So if they trade him now, it's going to be for less than what they got offered, and it's going to be like, man, we should have offered that. It's going to be a bad look probably. And they want to keep, their best players here. So maybe a trade is unlikely at this point, but he's been talked about. It's still somewhat possible, so I threw him in this video. The video talking about the best trade candidates, so he is one of the best. I like the Rams for him still. They were interested in him in the past, recent past, and they are looking for that next great pass rusher. It's going to take a first and more, so would the Rams maybe be a little hesitant to do that? I like the Lions as well. You could go along with that group. The young player that still, is very good, and you can still like kind of groom a little bit, but they're kind of more now like they're not really in the developing stage anymore. They're more in like what's win now. So going in to get another big time pass rusher, and they have a lot of cap space for the future. So the Rams and the Lions stand out in terms of fits. For me, mostly when it comes to Brian Burns. Another one, Danielle Hunter, which I'm thinking kind of in the same thing with Brian Burns. I think it's less likely right now because the Vikings weren't shopping him, but they were taking calls. Now they beat the Niners. The Vikings got an easy part of their schedule come up. They think they can win. They have the sack leader, tackle for loss leader right here in Danielle Hunter. Not only do they want him for this year, but they want to extend him. They want to extend him. I think worst case, he helps them this year. He leaves in free agency. They can't reach a deal. They get a compensatory pick for him, but I think they want to extend him as well. So I'm thinking kind of on the same page as Brian Burns, like a top candidate that's been talked about a lot, but don't expect it. I see too many people on Twitter saying their team is getting Brian Burns, their team is getting Danielle Hunter. You're going to be disappointed if you think like that, but it's possible. It's possible, not ruling it out. But I like the Jags for Hunter again. They're looking for a pass rusher. He fits their prototypical type of pass rusher they look for. Problem is with extending him, maybe they use him as a rental. The Ravens would also use him as a rental. They probably wouldn't be able to extend him, but those are teams that stand out. Like that's kind of the type of guy they're looking for, a move they may make if they're in the market of going with the rental type situation, and if he ends up being cheaper than expected, then extending him. But we talk about Rick Spielman, who actually drafted Danielle Hunter, and he interviewed. It sounds like he almost got a Jags job. Within that front office. And he thinks that they can go out and get Danielle Hunter. So I thought that was, I trust his judgment as well. So I thought that was interesting, but it makes sense as, the style of player they look for in terms of a pass rusher. So those are my favorite fits. I'm not really counting on a Danielle Hunter or Brian Burns trade. I'm counting on one of Sweat and Chase Young getting traded. My money would be on it being Sweat. If they beat the Eagles this week in a couple days, then maybe neither get dealt. But it sounds like one of those guys can get dealt. It's about Patrick Surtain. Another guy that I don't really expect to get traded, but the Broncos are listening to offers on him, and they're not going to push guys out. But if they get the right offer, they will trade. They will trade guys. So Surtain, big time corner. He's going to take a lot though. He's going to take 2 firsts. Could it be more? Are the Broncos stupid? Would they take just a first and something else? Who knows? You never know. I like the Lions for Surtain a lot. There's other teams being mentioned. I just don't think they have the cap space now, but mainly the future. You can make it work now, but the future. And that's the thing with the Bills. The Bills need a starting corner for now and the future. They need one pretty badly, in my opinion. Even when Tre'Davious White comes back next year, like how much does he have left? At this point with all these injuries, and he's not as good as he was, 3-4 years ago. So I love the scheme fit where the Bills are starting ahead with their defense. They're mixing in man and zone, a little different than, Leslie Frazier's, cover 2 over and over again. So I think a really good scheme fit. I think they can make it work long term, but it's a little tricky to work right now. And the Bills are the type of team that rely on development and don't make those splash moves like this. So it's tough, but I would love to see him on the Bills. But my main fit is the Lions. The Lions are really the only one that make a ton of sense if you're to be traded right now. Like they need a number 1 corner pretty badly. They have a lot of cap space in the future. They're a good team now, so it's not like they're trading an early pick anymore. the Lions by far make the most sense to me for Patrick Surtain. So thought that was an easy one. There's other, more of contender teams being mentioned, but I really like the Lions, as the fit. They make the most sense. They're another team that mixes in, man and zone. They'll run man, they'll run cover 2, they'll run cover 4, they'll run everything really right now. So Surtain makes a lot of sense in terms of fit for multiple reasons. So I'm not counting on him being traded. The Lions are the team I'm looking at, though, if he were to be. Justin Simmons is mentioned a bit. The Broncos are, maybe a little more likely than Surtain, but again, how high is the chances these guys get dealt? I think the right offer comes by, but Simmons, there's not a long list of teams that need a safety. I think the team that needs a safety the most is the Green Bay Packers, and I thought about putting the Packers up here. Savage just got hurt. They don't have Adrian Amos anymore. They could use it safety pretty badly for now in the future, and Simmons could be that guy, but the Packers are a team that I think needs their draft picks right now. They're still, do they look out for a quarterback in the draft? They're going to need offensive line because, things aren't what they used to be there. They probably need a starting running back in the future. They do, actually. They got a lot of injuries on defense. They're not stopping the run too well, so they need their draft pick. So otherwise, I would have put the Packers on here. I love the fit with the Niners. Is it a move the Niners would do, though? If they still had D'Amico Ryans, absolutely not. They wouldn't do it. But they have Steve Wilkes right now. A lot more man coverage. We've seen even cover 0. We've seen the corners on an island, maybe one single high safety at the top at times. And they don't really have the safeties to do that. Gibson worked really well. He was starting to decline, and then he worked really well with D'Amico Ryans. I think the way his different variety of zone coverages and help defense, I think a guy like Sean Gibson worked really well with that. Does he work as well at Wilkes? I don't think he does, but he's pretty good around the box, which is different than what, even Ryan's defense. A lot of those safeties, their best play was around the box. And Talanoa Afunga's a great ball player, but I thought his best plays that he made were, he got his hands on the ball, but it was around the line of scrimmage, around the box, around the, intermediate type routes. And a lot of times when they have single coverage, and they have, just one guy help over the top, you see Afunga a lot, and he wants to get downhill. He bites on things downhill. He is not a deep coverage guy, in my opinion. So this defense it's still a very good defense. It's a totally different defense, though, the way Steve Wilkes, this not scheme-wise, but coverage-wise, the way he uses players. So to me, they are missing that downfield coverage guy, and they have a load of cap space right now to put themselves in win now mode. So go get a star free safety that you can put in the back end. He's a single high type of guy. That's where he thrives, So I love the fit. It makes them that much better. Maybe you take, playing time away from Gibson and you let Hufanga do his thing then up in the box. So I don't know if it's going to happen, but I absolutely love it. I think it would make and what the Eagles went and did, they didn't really value safeties that much, but hey, our safeties stink right now. We got injuries there too. Let's go out and get a ball hawking, playmaking, rangy, free safety that can play single high or split coverage. And Kevin Byard, Niners, the other NFC contender. You got to match that. You got to try to match that right here. So I would love this. Haven't heard anything about it. It makes so much sense. The Bengals are missing Jesse Bates right now. Nick Scott not looking, he's not looking as good as he was on the Rams, which is surprising. He's kind of given up a bit in coverage. And the Bengals are a team that Lou Anarumo is a guy that he mixes up. He wants to go from cover 2 to man to cover 4 to cover 3 back to cover 2. That's what he wants to do. And I think Scott was just, strictly a cover 4 guy, it felt like. And he can continue to get better still, but they're even mixing battle in there a little bit for him, so, here and there, not a whole lot. Dax Hill, I like it, is a strong safety. He can mix in at free safety as well, but his best plays in the box, or covering guys from the slot, things like that. So you could go out and get a coverage safety. That would be great. So it makes sense to, kind of like the Niners, to take that next step. They didn't want to pay Bates, so do they want to pay Simmons? Do they want to value the position that much? They probably should, but I don't know if they will. Thought about putting the Packers in here because they badly need a safety. Budda Baker, I think, is less likely to be dealt, but I threw the Niners in there. I don't love the fits for Budda Baker, to be honest. He is I kind of forced him in this video because I had to, because I wasn't going to force guys that just aren't being talked about at all or aren't realistic trade. I don't think Devontae Adams is a realistic trade candidate. I don't think Saquon Barkley anymore because they pretty much like they said, they told Saquon Barkley he's going to stay put. But Budda Baker's been mentioned a bit. The Cardinals are in rebuild. They do they need him in that secondary with that new defense, the rebuilding defense? Not really. So he could be dealt. But Budda Baker's tricky because he's played free safety, he's played strong safety, he's played slot corner, and I think he's best in the box, honestly. But there are a lot of teams and people that like him at free safety because he's a playmaker back there. So the Niners could use that. And the Niners, I heard, are looking, I don't know if they necessarily need one, but I heard they're looking for a slot guy. And again, they could use a safety for coverage in the back end. So my thinking was use him, as a free safety at times and use him in the slot, like as a corner at times. I'm not expecting Baker to be traded because do the Cardinals absolutely want to trade him? We don't know that. Are there teams like dying to get him? We don't know that either. And I think the Packers in there, I think coverage-wise it's a really good fit, and they could use a safety. Just probably want to hang on to their draft picks. Next, Derrick Henry. We talked about Derrick Henry and the Ravens would be a beautiful, beautiful thing. And there's been some rumors about the Bills. The Bills don't value the running back position that highly, and James Cook is looking pretty good. But they are the next. I just don't know. I think it's either Titans or Ravens. I think it's stay put or Ravens. Eagles are being mentioned, but they have Swift, they have Gainwell, they have Rashad Penny, but I guess they don't use a couple of those guys a whole lot, and they're kind of saving them. Bucks are mentioned, but keep your draft picks. Rashad White still got a lot of upside. I think it's pretty much Ravens or bust here. It's a great fit. They have solid backs who are doing well, but you get way better here. Imagine trying to stop, worrying about Lamar Jackson, keeping the ball. Or you're worrying about the passing game because that's elevated right now. And then worrying about Derrick Henry. Like, how many years in a row did people have to stack the box against the Titans and you still got beat? The Ravens, you can't stack the box anymore. Oh, it would be so deadly. I'm still a little hesitant saying the Ravens can win a Super Bowl, and they probably can go. The durability of that team and that style of play, does it actually win a Super Bowl? But if you got Derrick Henry, I would be on board. I'd be a huge fan. I already am a big fan of Lamar Jackson. They seem to draft Notre Dame guys, are huge Notre Dame guys. So I always kind of like some of those guys. But if they got Derrick Henry, who's probably got to be everyone's, one of their favorite backs, one of my favorite backs the last how many years, since Adrian Peterson for me maybe, it would be electrifying. And the Titans might be sellers right now. So can they make it work financially? They're going to have to pull a few strings here and need some help from the Titans. But this is a situation where you have to, I think you should do it. You should do it because it's like, don't rely on your running backs. Yes, Gus Bus and Justice Hill's looking pretty solid too. And you got Keaton Mitchell, making some noise maybe going forward. But don't rely on what you got. Go get the stud here. That's my thinking. So it's something I kind of hope happens. Even though it'd be kind of weird seeing him away from the Titans. I kind of feel bad for Titans fans if that's the case. And then DeAndre Hopkins, another one. We talked about the Chiefs. I think the Saints, the Browns are teams that I throw out there. I saw that the best odds is the Steelers, which I don't know if I see. They have, maybe to replace Allen Robinson, but they have George Pickens on the outside as well. Deontay Johnson plays in the slot a bit, but Chargers make the most. The Chargers have a load of cap space to work with for this year. I guess they want it to roll over maybe, but they're missing Mike Williams so badly. It's Keenan Allen, and Josh Palmer's been pretty solid, but the other guys, they're not good right now. They're too young. They're too raw. You cannot rely on those guys. It's Keenan Allen and Josh Palmer. And it seems like they don't even like, Josh Palmer maybe as much as I do. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong, but they want they want an X receiver out there. Like it feels like, Mike Williams is the X, Keenan Allen's the Y, Josh Palmer's the Z. That's what they want, and they need another X receiver out there. And Hopkins still looks good. He looks great, given that it's a run-first Titans team and they had Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball. He looks really good right now. So this would really elevate the Chargers' offense and Justin Herbert, make them a little more consistent. The Chiefs, I would like for them to do this because they're kind of missing that Hopkins-style receiver. They have Rashee Rice looks great. They brought McCole Hardman back. MVS is good for a splash play here and there. They're kind of missing this type of guy, so they could go out and do it. I mentioned the Browns and the Saints. Teams like that are a possibility. The Chargers, I don't trust them to go out and make that splash. I always wanted them to go get Brandon Cooks a few years ago. I wanted them to do it so bad, and they just don't do it when they had the opportunity. But so we'll see. few more for you guys here. Jerry Jeudy, I like the Browns. We'll throw the Jets in there as well because they could use another piece, because Lazard's good for like a possession catch, downfield catch here and there. Garrett Wilson's getting all kinds of separation. Zach Wilson's got to give him the ball, but Garrett Wilson's doing very well. And then you have Randall Cobb in the slot, who's a little underwhelming. And then McCole Hardman was underwhelming. Didn't work out like a fit-wise, like how they wanted to. So they need another guy in there. So Judy's the guy that can play inside and out. I think he can man the slot a bit more than outside for the Jets. So that actually made a little sense. It's just, are they going to piss off Rodgers if Cobb is pushed down the depth chart a little bit? That's the only thing there. But there's not a long list. I don't love the Panthers for him, but it's a possibility. A lot of people want to talk about that. I think they need strictly an outside receiver. The Saints, the Patriots being mentioned. I don't know if the Saints are being mentioned. It's kind of one I throw out there. I think they could be sneaky when it comes to receiver. Packers thrown out there, but I like their young receivers. That's not the problem right now, and they need to keep their draft picks. The Browns make the most sense to me. Get a receiver that can play inside and out, help them out, a little bit, a pair with Cooper and Elijah Moore, and Browns tend to make these types of moves here. I expect them to make a move, so that's who I think of when I think about Jerry Jeudy. Courtland Sutton, I like the Panthers for them. I'm expecting Jeudy. Jeudy could very well be traded. Sutton, right now I'm thinking maybe not because he's their best receiver. And there's a long list of teams that want his contract. Not that it's an awful contract, but the Panthers need a true, proven outside receiver to pair with Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is tearing it up from the slot. He's strictly a slot. You don't need any help from the slot. You don't need any help from the slot at all. You need help on the outside, on the sideline. That'll be Courtland Sutton. Or DeAndre Hopkins, but you don't want to trade for that much of an aging guy when you're kind of a rebuild team. And I throw the Browns out there. Maybe the Browns aren't looking for a guy that can play inside and out because Elijah Moore is really good on the inside. And then Cooper is good on the outside. Maybe you're looking for more of a possession guy on the outside as well. So Sutton could be that guy. So I throw them out in there. But I don't know if I'm really counting on Sutton to be traded. It's kind of in the same boat as the Brian Burns, the Danielle Hunter, the Budda Baker, but maybe a little higher up than those guys with chances, but we'll see. And then one more, Darnell Mooney's been mentioned a bit. Maybe the Bears don't want to extend him because the last couple of years he's been like inconsistent. Like 1 week he's looked really good and 1 week he's not. Like he hasn't really shown up. But then right away when he came into the Bears from Tulane, he looked really good. I know the talent's there. It's just, is he working this offense? I don't know if the Bears know their offense yet, and they got to get the right quarterback to know their offense. So maybe they want to keep Mooney around. They're starting to give Tyler Scott a little bit more snaps, but they did already trade Claypool. Are they throwing in the towel? We'll see. It just depends on if they want to extend him or not. They're trying to work on the Jalen Johnson. We talked about in the past, but I'm thinking that trade's less likely because the Bears want a lot if they're going to trade him because they'd rather keep him and extend him. But if Mooney is dealt, I like the Eagles a lot. For Darnell Mooney. And honestly, I put the Bills next because I would in Josh Allen offense from the slot, he would be great. But now that I'm thinking about watching last night's game, because I put the ideas together before last night's game, Khalil Shakir really took off, and he's a slot guy. So maybe the Bills are just set there. So maybe another team, Jets, Saints, I don't think the Browns because Mooney's mainly a slot guy, more so. Judy's like a split slot and outside then slot. Mooney's more a slot guy. Eagles make a ton of if he's going to be dealt. I like far and away the Philadelphia Eagles. I think it would be great there. Quez Watkins injured. It's a big upgrade from Watkins anyways. They have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. The Eagles offense, they like receivers that can play. They have to be able to play in the slot, But A.J. Brown's great in both, mainly an outside guy. Devontae Smith is great in both, definitely mainly an outside guy. Quez Watkins had an insane amount of snaps from the slot. Like they had Brown and Smith, mainly outside, could play in, and they had a guy who's manning the slot a lot, and that was Watkins. But Mooney could be that guy, and I think he can really fit that offense. If he were to be dealt, I love the Eagles way more than anybody else there. So I guess I don't know if I'm counting on Mooney being dealt, but it's definitely a possibility, and that's a team to watch there to really elevate them. I heard they're not done. They get Kevin Byard. I heard they're not even done, so I'm thinking could go with a depth corner. They don't value linebackers a ton. They don't really need to. Defensive line, they're set. For offense, I know the thing I think of is slot receiver if they're not done. That's what I think of. So, I don't know if they go for Jeudy. Again, a guy that can play inside. I don't know if they would go for Jeudy because again, the slot receiver is not going to play 100%. So he's not going to play 90% plus snaps like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are. A lot of time they're going to use the 2 receivers with Dallas Goedert. So if Jeudy's, in and out of the bench, getting 60% snaps, there's going to be a problem, I think. So I don't know if that's right for the team. Where Mooney, I think, would be, would he be thrilled? Maybe not, if he's not getting 80% snaps or whatever, but it would be fine. Renfro's another one, which I don't know if I view him as good of a target. This was kind of like the best of the best candidates, this video. I like Mooney a lot more. Even though, today, Renfro could at any given time be better, but looking at Mooney and his upside and how good he was as a right away rookie the first couple of years, I think he'd be really good with the Eagles. But Renfro's another one for the Eagles. Player like that. So we'll see. Maybe the Eagles make a move for one of those guys. We will see. But that is going to wrap up this one. We'll see what happens. We'll see who gets dealt. I think we're going to see a weekend of football first, and then teams will decide what to do, and we'll see. So we'll have you covered live on that stuff on Twitter, then right here with all the videos on our channel. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for that. And anything else you're looking for, it's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.